And my heart and soul takes me back to this story about helping people understand that they only have one shot at life. And I want them to live life with passion and purpose, go out there and make the most of their one shot. And a lot of people don't come to that realization until they're in their rocking chair. Gee, I wish I just traveled overseas. Gee, I wish I took up golf. Gee, I wish I learned another language. Gee, I wish, I said to my son more and more that I love you. So I want to go and take control of that. I'm going to make a decision today, and I'm not going to live with regrets.
Welcome to Here for More podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Kraus, and this is the show where we're as passionate about personal growth as we are about saving the planet. We know that life's not just a list of boxes to check off, and we don't sit around just waiting for lightning to strike. We are action takers. We're proactive, passionate, and determined to massively impact this earth and the people on it. For as much as I've already learned throughout my own life, I know there's a lifetime more to go, which is why I'm taking this journey right alongside you. We can do the hard things we dream of. We can answer our soul's deepest callings, and we don't have to do it alone. Our journey towards greater purpose, fulfillment, and joy evolves just as we do. It starts right here, right now, and again tomorrow. This is what it means to be here for more. Welcome back to Here for More podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Kraus, and I'm here today with Craig Schulze. We met online through mutual familiarity of the book, The 4-Hour Workweek, which if you've been listening to this podcast for the past few weeks, I've been diving into this concept of what does it mean to scale back in your life, but not only scale back from your working hours, but find more meaningful things to fill the rest of your time with. So Craig has a really incredible story, and, he's an entrepreneur, an investor, a content creator, so many more things on top of that. I know those are not the only titles that define him. So I'm going to let him explain a little bit more about who he is, what he does, and his story on where he was and how he got to where he is today. So Craig, thank you so much for being here. I know we are on opposite sides of the world from each other, so that's even more of a commitment to step into. But thank you. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, and I'm looking forward to spending time with you and giving as much value and share my experience as I can possible. I have done a lot in life, but I guess for me, my journey probably started at age 15. I left home when I was 15 years of age, and it wasn't because I wasn't loved. It was just because my school only went to year 10. So moving away from your parents and your family and your safety, you grow up quite quickly. And I actually, because I didn't grow up with a lot of money, my dad said to me, I asked him this question. I said, how much did our house cost? And he said, I used to rent it for $2 a week. And that's the type of house I grew up in. But I have a really good relationship with my family. I love them dearly, and I always like to add that in there. But it's an important part of the journey because everyone has a story. Everyone's given a set of circumstances to start with. But I funded myself to go through university age 17, become an engineer, fired my boss age 21 to follow my dreams and passions, which is really important to do on your journey, is to follow your heart, follow your dreams and passion. That was the fitness industry. I started one fitness club, become a multi-award winning. So imagine in America being California's Fitness Professional of the Year. I was that in Australia, one of the states of Australia, Fitness Professional of the Year. Through drive, through passion, through just the will to do whatever it took to have success. That ended up me franchising the business, setting up 22 franchises, owning 5 myself. And you mentioned the 4-Hour Workweek. I read that book when it was first launched, and I got completely and utterly attached to this whole concept because I was sitting around the pool in Bali reading that book, and I'm going, wow, I'm working like 15 hours a day running 5 gyms back in 2008. And it was a global financial crisis that really said, Craig, you need to get online and do this type of thing that this guy's doing. And I ended up building a 7-figure or multi-7-figure online business, a really sophisticated property investor, so near 8-figure property portfolio. I'm an investor in a number of private companies, including the largest entrepreneur education company in Australia. And I published my own book, You've Got One Shot. I've spoken in stages all around the world. The biggest audience is in a stadium of 15,000 people. And I've traveled to 120 cities, and I've had a lot of life experiences. So hopefully we can dive and unpackage all of that.
Holy cow, that is so much to unpack there. So many incredible things you've done. And just to hear, I know each piece of this journey, was obviously something new to overcome and something new to learn. But when you package it all up like that, it's just like, wow, look at all of these things that you've done. So really incredible. Thank you for sharing that. And congratulations to all of the success that you've seen. But I know that it wasn't always that way. I know you didn't always have this mindset. How did you start? I know you read the 4-Hour Work Week, but then I know you had some other family, different things that happened from what I learned in listening to a little bit of your podcast. So talk to me a little bit about that really got you into this living life more real time.
Yeah, look, the personal story is sort of like 2/3 through my journey, and I'm really happy to dive into that because that's inspired my mission today, living with passion and purpose, love and gratitude, maximizing your one shot at life. But my first big breakthrough was at 21 years in business, at 21 years of age. You probably not have much life skills back at 21, even though you probably think you know everything, but your life skills, your business skills are like absolutely nil. But what I lacked there, I made up for with the desire and the will to do whatever it took to have success. So I'm running a business, have no idea. So I just started reading books on sales, reading books on marketing, reading books on how to invest money, reading books. So I'd be doing that. I'd be taking the responsibility to learn the skills that it took for success. And my big breakthrough in life happened with, it was an accidental lesson to learn at that age, which I write about in my book in chapter 8 about gratitude and generosity changed my life. Now, if you give me a minute to share this story, there's a lot of value for people to take out of it because, it has changed my entire life. And what happened was a professional basketball league. So just imagine, the top tier basketball in America come to you and say, hey, will you sponsor us? Well, I didn't have much money, so I couldn't sponsor them. So what I did was I used what I now refer to as business alchemy, create something out of nothing. And what that was me giving away 10 basketball memberships. Now, that 10 basketball memberships equated to about $15,000. So I gave away 10 for them to raffle off. Now, one of the winners come to me and said, I've won one of your 12-month memberships. I'd love to be a member of your gym. She was the wife of a player in the professional basketball team. And because they were allocated free tickets, she said, look, this is really generous. Here's 8 basketball tickets. Now, I'm like, oh, wow, this is amazing. So I have this young family. They walk into my gym. They all join up and go, wow, here's 4 new members. So I pull the basketball tickets out and hand it over to them and said, look, thank you for joining up. This is amazing. There's 4 new members, which is, effectively a $6,000 commitment to me. I didn't know who they were. They come back to my gym and that was extremely generous. We own a corporate box at the football. So imagine going to the NFL in one of those big boxes. I'd given those basketball tickets to a really high-level business person who had an incredible heart, who took me on as a young 21-year-old, and he taught me about investing. He taught me about building a business. He helped me navigate through the financial crisis. I have a really big property portfolio now. And I book him out, when I'm about to do something and say, hey, can you just look over this for me just to make sure that there's something that I can't see? So for the last 20 years, I've had this incredible mentor that's coached me, guided me, advised me. And it all started through the act of generosity, gratitude, doing something with heart without any expectation in return. So if I go back to the original question, it was really that I had the mindset that I was growing, I was learning, and I was investing in myself and wanted to get better day after day after day. But applying what I was learning and the act of generosity really changed my life in a dramatic way.
Those are huge, and they're sometimes underlooked, I think, or overlooked rather, as being, not that important, or we stop thinking about it because we're just like, I got to grow my business. I got to do all these things, and so that act that was so seemingly simple to you turned out to be huge, incredible. And I love that reminder because it's something that we can so easily practice. It doesn't have to be like giving basketball tickets away, but it could be just these little acts of selflessness that lead to something really amazing.
Absolutely. And that's one of my philosophies now. And if you want to take that same principle into your business now, let's just say you own a personal training studio, or you're a chiropractor or a hairdresser. Think of that principle of business alchemy, creating something out of nothing. And that could be a joint venture. It might be going across to somebody in your local community and saying, hey, I have clients that would probably benefit from your services. You have clients that can probably benefit from it. Let's do a cooperation marketing campaign to both our databases and support each other. All right. So just always think about business alchemy. How can I create something out of nothing?
Yeah. You never know where you're going to find your next thing. And so I love that too. I really love that. Okay. So you had all these gyms, you have all these gyms, and then you ended up moving into the one-shot movement. Was that next?
So in 2008, I hit my first speed bump in business. The first 6 years of my business, it was like, this is too easy. Like I was literally in my mid-20s going, I'm winning awards, I'm buying fitness clubs, I'm walking to banks and saying, give me $500,000 for this and $500,000 for that. And I'm like, but I'd never ever experienced a global financial crisis before. And this is a really important lesson too, because I learned that lesson then and I applied that lesson from then to now and protected myself or recession-proof myself from the current financial crisis. Have I taken a hit? Yes. But, I would have been bankrupt if I didn't learn that lesson back then. But what happened then was global financial crisis. So imagine I'd signed 2 new leases on gyms. I was selling franchises. And if in the space of 6 months, banks said, we're not lending money. It's a global financial crisis. And I'm like, oh, well, how do I fit out these gyms? And I was lucky as a property investor, I was able to use my, take myself right up to the max limit. One more thing go wrong and I'm out of business. But that there was one thing that happened. Second thing that happened, that franchisees that wanted to buy these gyms, the banks weren't lending them money to buy the gyms. So it's like, oh no, my customers can't buy gyms off me anymore. The US dollar to Australian dollar changing cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars overnight on my equipment. And all my gym clients were worried about their livelihood. And as a personal trainer, I was a discretionary item. It's like, hey, we're worried about our finance. We love you, Craig, but I'm going to go and run around the park and use some dumbbells. So everything sort of happened. I got myself into a situation where I was living barely getting by. But that complete and utter capitulation for me was the next big breakthrough. And at the same time, technology was changing. We were starting to get our first social media. So, Facebook had just started, YouTube had just started. Then our phones moved from the old text and call phone into a smartphone. And then the internet tools like what we're on now started to pop up. Then Wi-Fi started to happen, where you look at how that connected the world, Wi-Fi as a technology. And I'm like reading the 4-hour work week going, yeah, the internet, social media, maybe I can get customers everywhere. So I started looking for wellness products, weight loss products, and anything I could sell to my gym clients, because they were already coming to me because they trust me and like me. And I started selling products online from using online platforms, and I made 6 figures in my 3rd year just off doing that. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is nearly more profitable than owning 5 gyms. And I said, I've got to take this to a next level. a company was looking to launch their product range internationally. I took the opportunity to help them do that. And yeah, I think over the last decade, probably, generated customers in 100 countries and multiple millions of dollars of profit along the journey as well. So I sold all my fitness clubs in 2015, and yeah, just been a digital nomad ever since.
Gosh, just to hear those numbers it feels so far, because that is not where I'm at. And so it seems so huge. And to hear you say things like, oh, in the beginning of your journey, like it just happened easily. I'm like, what? Like, talk to me a little bit about what that experience was like.
When I say happened easily, it wasn't easy, because when I started my first gym, I was the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. I was going out dropping flyers. I was going out networking. I was the HR person, the legal person, the finance person, delivering the product on the floor. So when I say it wasn't easy, but I was building a business that by the end of my third year, I was starting to pick and choose when I worked. And as a young, I was earning more money than being an engineer. I was working my own hours. I was scaling the business. So I was growing in the journey, but it wasn't easy I was working 15 hours a day. I was exhausted. Right. I didn't have a holiday for the first 5 or 6 years, but I'd never faced adversity where a real serious adversity in business that could have made me lose everything. And I just felt at that time that it was just going to continue to go up, 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 up. But the reality is it's been up and down, but progressively it's gone up. And probably by a certain point, by the year 2012, 13, actually 14, when my wife and I went through losing our first son, that year there was a year that just exponentially my income just dramatically went up at an exponential level. And from that period on, things have been quite good. So yeah, it wasn't easy. And going, just to give you some real harsh truths and realities, when I was going through the global financial crisis, I said to myself through mindset that I will definitely get through this. It's not a matter of if I get through it, but when I get through this, I will never, ever, ever be in this position again. I will never, ever not look at downside in business. Things were going really good for me. Selling franchises, everything was going great. But that was a huge lesson I learnt there. But I was living off a 60-cent bakery bread roll and get enough salad, and my wife would make, salad. So my lunch was 60 cents, 80 cents a day. I was really, really struggling to survive. And at the time doing the online stuff too, I was running 5 gyms. I was getting up at 5 in the morning. I was getting home at 8 o'clock at night. Then I would be working on my side hustle business till 10, 11 o'clock. And then I'd be up at 12. I did that for 3 years. So yeah, it's not rainbows and unicorns, but it's, just to give you some real life context, that's sort of really some of the darker challenges that I face, but it's all good.
I appreciate that, because there, maybe easy wasn't the correct word to use there, because I and I haven't been in business for nearly as many years as you have, but I know it's not easy. But to see that just like ability to scale, so there's like easy versus things are working, so to speak. And of course, there's like those ups and downs. So that's really helpful to hear some of those realities, because so often I think online, especially today, we see like, oh, this is how I made 6 figures in 6 weeks. And they're like, follow these 3 simple steps. And it's not simple. It's not that.
It's not that. No. And Gary Vee's a classic case of, he openly admits, people see me today as this megastar content creator, but he said no one saw me back in 2007 during the wine library days where I was doing videos every day. Nobody knew who I was, but I was showing up every day. he's very open where he talks about that as well. So, yeah, when you see the picture of a Ferrari and somebody standing next to it and, you know, follow these 3 steps to $1 million in 6 months, probably there's 3 red flags right there.
Yeah, probably. And obviously what you were doing, you realized at some point that it was not sustainable. You know, you did all these things to be able to grow and scale, but it wasn't a lifestyle that you could continue, you know, from a healthy standpoint. And also you probably didn't want to continue working that many hours a day. So that shift started to happen. Yeah. What was that like?
Yeah, look, it is. And, you know, sometimes you've got to, everything, you know, everyone has the same 24 hours in the day. And everything you do is got to be, I guess, you know, seesawed or valued is what's the cost benefit of everything you do. And at the time, valuing my health and fitness was a really big priority as a personal trainer. But going through that period where it was 15 hours a day, then online business, side hustle business at night, the seesaw swung a little bit, and health and fitness, which was nearly number 1 priority, had to go down to number 2 because there was just days where I was like, I can't do absolutely everything and then do a 1-hour workout too. So I sort of committed to a 3-year period where I was compromising some of my highest values to be able to get myself into a position financially where I could give myself more time back, more money. And I mentioned I sold my gyms in 2015. I'm talking about 3 years of really hard, then another 3 years of doing both, but I had good management running my gyms at the time and then was able to sell. So there's sort of this transition period, and everyone, the point of the, you know, that, I guess that message there is, you know, everyone's got the same 24 hours in the day. If you really, truly want to live life the way that you want to live, maximize your one shot at life, sometimes there's some sacrifices that you may make. And that could be socializing with friends on a Saturday night. It could be I might quit golf for, you know, instead of playing 3 times a week, just 1 time a week. You know, there's always this seesaw of cost benefits in everything you do. So, that's probably it. I made a commitment, a 3-year commitment, that I was going to not only dig myself out of it, but when the next global financial crisis is going to come around, I won't be in that situation ever again. So I was like, that is worth fighting for. And we come to 2020, 2021. If I had 5 fitness clubs and kept on that same pathway, I was bankrupt. In Australia, we've had 220 days so far in this 18-month period of hard lockdown where gyms have not been opened. Most gym owners, small, you know, enterprises are just down and out on their knees. So the lessons I learned back then, the implication, the sacrifices, the commitments to my dreams of being able to travel the world and do what I want with who I want, whenever I want, to be able to work from home, to be able to buy a house in a suburb that I never thought was possible, to be able to buy a holiday house on the beach in my dream location, which I'm like, you know, that 3 years of sacrifice was all worth it.
Yeah. And I appreciate that reminder that Australia has been very intensely locked down. I have a friend from Australia, and so I've heard a little bit about it. But sometimes we are so disconnected, you know, because a lot of my people that I know in my audience is in the U.S. And so to hear that and it really sets in like all that you were able to learn to then, because you couldn't have seen this coming, but you'd been through something similar before that, you know, you were ready for it, so to speak. So that's a good lesson.
Yeah, every 10 years there seems to have been some form of global financial crisis. I planned for that. So went online had customers all around the world. So if Australia went out, I still had customers in China. If Australia went out, I still have customers in India. If India goes out, I've still got customers in Europe. So I was doing all the right things, and financially I put myself into a position where it was like, I've created my own economy. I don't need to be, trapped by this government. And, I built wealth through property. I've what I would say is recession-proof myself. I didn't factor in that I was going to lose my rights and freedoms, which rocks my absolute number one value in life, which is freedom. So I want to travel the world when I want, but I can't leave 5 kilometers, which is about 3 miles of my house for 220 days. So yeah, I prepared, but I didn't prepare to be in home detention.
Yeah, I don't think anyone did, right? That's so tough. Yeah. And because that too is a really important value to me, is that freedom. And what do you do when it's out of your control? So this is a great segue, kind of going into your passion and purpose driven mission behind Oneshot movement, because, there's so many ways we could talk about this, but the first thing I thought of was, regardless of what's going on in the world right now, this is still your one shot, right? This is still your one life. So yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
In 2014, life was really good. So I started making money online. I started traveling the world. I just got married, and, that really happy relationship was great. Everything in my life was like, wow, this is, from the 15-year-old that was just struggling by and just a fighter to survive, this is, what have I done here? And we were, about 6-7 weeks out from having our first child. And, we packed our bags. Everything was looking brilliantly great. And we just go in for a regular checkup. And we were going for a weekend away with some friends, and there's nothing to indicate that there was anything wrong. And we're in there, and the doctor said, "Look, there's no heartbeat here. Don't panic. Everyone's. I hear that, and it's like when you're driving down, or you're on that roller coaster, and your stomach drops really quickly. Like that was what happened straight away, and they confirmed the scenario, and the bags were not packed for a holiday. The bags were packed to be staying in the hospital, and the next 48 hours was like a head spin. And my wife, had to deliver naturally, and I'd never cried in my life in front of a person, and I cried for 4 hours. Like I soaked the pillow she was going through extreme pain. And at the time it was like an out of body experience, and I didn't know whether I wanted to see our baby. And he was a boy, and after my wife does skin on skin with him, they asked me if I wanted to see him, and I was sitting in the chair exhausted. I couldn't believe that she'd just gone through a full labour doing that, knowing the outcome. And when I looked at it, it was just a beautiful baby that just wasn't alive. And that moment changed my life. Like it just shook up everything in me to say, hey, what am I doing? Like, am I just out here trying to make money? Am I just... So, fast forward, we spent 2 days with him in the hospital, and I, just had these constant conversations with myself. And at the funeral a week later, I said in the eulogy, I said, look, my son didn't even get one breath on this planet. We're all here. We're all in the game. What have you got to, go and make the most of your one shot at life. And I said that I made the most money I'd ever made that year. It was like, nearly 10x my income that year. It just really shook me up. And for about 4 years, it sat on me. I started journaling about that experience and how can my son, who hasn't had one breath on the planet, impact the world? And a good colleague of mine said to me, Craig, you're building a really big personal brand here. You should be writing a book. Go and write a book about something. I said, look, I don't want to be another businessman writing another business book on how to make $1 million in X time. If I'm going to do a book, I'm going to put my heart and soul into it. And my heart and soul takes me back to this story about helping people understand that they only have one shot at life, and I want them to live life with passion and purpose, go out there and make the most of their one shot. And a lot of people don't come to that realization until they're in their rocking chair. Gee, I wish I just traveled overseas. Gee, I wish I took up golf. Gee, I wish I learned another language. Gee, I wish, I said to my son more and more that I love you. So this book was about helping inspire people to go, hey, yes, I'm 44. I'm not satisfied in my job. I'm not satisfied with my health. I'm not satisfied with my financial situation. I want to go and take control of that. I'm going to make a decision today, and I'm not going to live with regrets. So I wrote the book, which is about that, the story of a stolen heartbeat and what that taught me about living a meaningful life. Right now, as you said, you can't probably get a more stronger message in, most people lost their job, lost their businesses, locked down, health crisis, whatever it is for you. This should be your, the time that you start having serious conversations with yourself.
Thank you for sharing that, personal story with us. And thank you for now the work that you've turned it into, because you didn't have to go out and publicly talk about any of this and share it with people. But now you have, and you are making an impact, and you're having these amazing conversations. So thank you for what you're doing. I was just having a conversation with my dad yesterday. We were at lunch together, and we've talked about this before, but he's brought up I could retire, but then what would I do? And then we talk about if you won the lottery and you never had to worry about finances again, what would you do with your time? So it's so much about really, this is our one shot, and how are we going to live it? What do we actually want to do? And we need to be doing that right now, not waiting for someday or one day.
Yeah, you've got to take, you're the master of your own destiny. So, everyone's been dealt a set of cards. And me leaving home was 15 was extremely challenging. At 17, I would classify myself as nearly homeless, where I accepted a job and my house was 3 hours away from where that job was. And I just said yes. And I just packed a car up and I got to the city and said, where am I going to sleep? I start the job tomorrow. So I rang a friend and he said that I can stay on his auntie's couch for 2 nights to find somewhere. And then I rang around and rang another lady, and she gave me 2 weeks. And she didn't want to kick me out at 17, so she ended up, I ended up boarding there for about 6 months because nobody would rent to a 17-year-old that was earning $178 a week. So, my cards were not exactly easy, but you are the master of your own destiny, and whatever challenges, that just helps you build your story, and it's up to you now to shine and develop the skills that will help you grow and evolve to be that person that can make the most of their one shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like from kind of what you've explained through your story that there's just always another way, when things look grim on one path, there's a way that you can make it work. And you saw that big, huge dip in your business and then it opened up another door. So there's just always another way. So you said that you are also an investor. I would love to hear a little bit about what that means.
Yeah, so I run, so again, we talk about these little sliding door moments and being locked in home detention. It's sort of like, what else can I do? How else can I make an impact? I've got this book. And I started to developed a coaching program around becoming a market leader in your niche. Now, it's fair to say that the top 1% of any industry, whether you're in the real estate industry, the fitness industry, more opportunities will always come your way if you can elevate yourself to be standing out in the crowd, to be that needle in the haystack, to be that unicorn of your niche. You know, it might be getting on a TV show. It might be an endorsement from there. You might have a huge following. You might get product endorsement opportunities, whatever it is. So I started putting this framework together, but my holy grail level is what I call investor level. So one of the biggest lessons I learned off my first mentor was to make money on money. And it's sort of like, how do I make money on money? And the idea is that you get business or your job or whatever it is and get a side hustle and you start generating cash flow. Now, a lot of people have this mindset where it's sort of like, hey, I want a Lamborghini, you know, so they might make $1 million 1 year, but they've spent $1.1 million and they've got a car, you know, that's what they have. And then they go through their rainy day moment, like a global financial crisis, and they're bankrupt again. So the idea of becoming an investor is building assets that grow in wealth and make money on money. So I started as a property investor. As a property investor, just started accumulating. So, budgeting to go, okay, what's my next property that I'm going to invest in? Then all of a sudden the property values started growing quite considerably. And, I was just accumulating along the way. And then my business started getting better. So how can I redeploy that money to, start making money on money and recession-proofing yourself from this rainy day moment that's just about to come in the next 3 to 5 years, and it might be in 2030. So the idea of becoming an investor is making money and business in cash flow and then redeploying money to develop assets, appreciable assets. It could be cash flow assets. So I started becoming an investor in private companies, which I thought were interesting opportunities. Over the last 12 months, one skill that I've started to develop is starting to look at technical analysis charts on the stock market, on crypto markets, on starting to invest money in what I see is another big moving beast in crypto assets. So I'm not going to go and put my entire portfolio into that, but I can see some trends happening there. I can see the market's very robust now. It's volatile, but it's not risky unless you're investing in rubbish. But it's the skill to learn. So how do I look at charts and look at stuff like that? So the idea of becoming an investor, and the really important thing to understand here is this whole mystical word of multiple streams of income. And you probably pick that up out of the 4-hour work week. Multiple streams of income isn't making $100 on 7 different things. Multiple streams of income is mastering one thing, then bolting on other things. So it could be I own my gyms, I'm making money there really, really well. A side hustle, online products, sell to my clients. Side hustle, a merchandise opportunity, sell to my clients. It might be make cash flow, buy a property that's going to go up and make money, or make positive cash flow, something like that. It's not I'm going to build all my gyms and then I'm going to go and start this business, and then I'm going to buy a hairdressing salon, and you're like, spreading yourself too thin. So multiple stream, I probably make multiple streams of income of probably 9 different levels now, but it's really, I built wealth in property, in traditional business, online business, but I didn't do everything at once.
Yeah, that's a really important differentiation, because I've heard that having multiple streams of income, and then the next thought is like, well, how are you not spread thin? Exactly. So I love this term too of building wealth, not just making money. And so the way you've described it is really valuable, because you're right that we'll make this money and then we'll either like hold on to it super, super tight and it just sits there and does nothing, or you go make a big purchase and that can backfire. So I think it can be really scary to take this hard-earned money and not all of it, but a chunk of it, and then put it into something else. But as you're saying, that can actually be the most valuable option.
Yeah, look, and I always say to people, getting my framework in stage number 1 is about networks. And so so you're building wealth, you're building intellectual capital, so learning. Then you've got social capital, networks, and the currency is your contacts list, and all doors that open through me is through contacts. But I break it up into a few different areas, and if you give me a second to share this with you, I think you'll get a bit of value here. So you have your network of people which you currently have. So they're the people in your phone, and some of those might be entrepreneurial, some of those might be people you grew up with. Understand that not everyone has the same mindset and drive set that you have. So, if you continue to spend time with your current network, your subconscious mind will keep you at the level that your network's at. So one of the things that you want to be doing is proactively growing your network. And when you're growing your network, you want to start growing your network with like-minded people, with people that may be opening doors for you, people that, can teach you new things. So you've got these people that can help up-level you and start spending time with those. But you've also got to build what I call a world-class team. Now, a world-class team is, so you want to learn about property, don't go and learn about somebody's opinion who's a renter. Go and find somebody that's invested in property, in the type of properties that you want to buy, and learn their strategy. Otherwise you become someone that navigates their way through the fog, and it's just all guesswork, and it's a longer process. There's a lot more trial and error to it. So, when you're going out to building multiple streams of income. So for me, I wanted to learn about crypto assets. What are they? Can you tell me more about that? Okay, let me find someone that's doing really, really well here, and let me latch onto that person. But one of the best things you can do, getting back to gratitude and generosity, is have a group of people that look up to you that you can be contributing to. And that will be very enriching on your growth to success as well. Hopefully that can add some value to your audience.
Yeah, I think it absolutely can. It just really reinforces the concept of your network is your net worth is your network, or something like that.
Yeah.
But totally, you're so right. That's so helpful. Thank you for sharing that with us. I have to ask you, how many hours do you feel like you work now per day, per week?
Interestingly, I just pick and choose. I love what I used to do, and I used to travel around the world running events, having ridiculous, crazy bucket list experiences, as well as random, I got caught up in Turkey in a huge protest following a terrorist attack. And I was locked in a restaurant for hours, and there was tens of thousands of people, and I'm in a foreign country I knew nothing about, don't speak the language, and I'm in there going, what do I do? And I had my 6-month-old boy with me, and I've just made a run for it through this sea of people just in a mad panic. I've had the opportunity to be interviewed on MTV in the Middle East, going out to all through the Middle East, me on TV. I played in a charity basketball game in the Philippines. I've been to crazy experiences in India, in Africa, but right now I'm not working so much. I do a little bit of coaching and mentoring, but I can't get out and do that. So I'm not doing that. I'm doing actually 3 or 4 podcasts a week as a guest on shows. I've stopped interviewing, so I've got like 50 interviews banked up into my own platform. I've been spending a fair bit of time learning the crypto market, so I'm sort of just picking and choosing things. A few people want me to coach them in the market leadership stuff. So yeah, it's just pick and choose, really.
That's a really cool place to be able to pick and choose. And I know some of the people listening to this will find that of value, because that's something that they, and myself included, want to be able to do in our lives. So keeping that in the back of our mind to get to that place where we can pick and choose. And I just want to remind you, I know you know this, but the world will open back up and you'll be able to go back to those things and those incredible experiences. So hang in there, hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah, really. Looking forward to it, that's for sure.
Yeah, me as well. Well, Craig, thank you so much for being here with us today. Before I let you go, will you please tell our audience where they can find you online and find your book and all of that?
Yeah, I guess they call it, it's nearly a media center now. Just under my name, CraigSchulze.com. On there in the top right-hand corner, I have an ebook which I call Work-Life Vision Book, and that's really a roadmap to help you master your life. I break it into 7 key areas. If you can master all 7 key areas, you can live with joy, fulfillment, and happiness. And just to give you some understanding of that, you don't want to be the richest person in the cemetery, all right? So finance is one of those areas. So you can be extremely wealthy but have terrible relationships with your family. If you have terrible relationships with your family, chance of living in joy, happiness, and fulfillment are going to be low. Similarly, richest man in the cemetery, terrible health and fitness, the smoker, whatever, 50 kilograms overweight or 50 pounds overweight. It's hard to live in joy, fulfillment, and happiness if you hate your job and you're spending 8 hours, 10 hours a day there. So I break it down into where you are now and where you want to be in 12 months' time, where you want to be in 3 years' time, and the 7 key areas. And you might assess yourself against one of those areas and say, that's why I'm not happy, and it's really just a bit of a framework to work through. So you can download that, but I've got a lot of great resources. All my podcast is hosted on there. And, if you want to learn off the best sports stars in the world, the best entrepreneurs in the world, there's some great episodes, business people, business coaches, property investors. Yeah, my book's on there. I'm pretty easy to connect with, mainly Instagram, reach out on LinkedIn as well.
Thank you so much for that, Craig. Thank you for being here today. And again, just for all that you're doing. And I hope that you are out of lockdown very soon.
Thank you.
Hey, you. Do you have any plans December 11th to 18th? Could you picture yourself lying on a beach in Mexico, learning to surf in the warm ocean, practicing yoga in a gorgeous open-air studio, being served 3 wholesome, delicious plant-based meals a day, and getting to connect with a group of incredible humans? Does it sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. Join Jess and I as we host our very first surf and yoga wellness retreat this December in Trampones, Mexico. We still have space left, but spots are filling up quickly. So if you're interested, the link is in the show notes. Go check it out for more details and to learn how to register. You do not need any surf or yoga experience. This is catered towards whatever level you're at. We're working with wonderful surf instructors. I'll be teaching some of your yoga classes. It's just going to be a really, really awesome experience. Jess and I are so excited, and the humans that are already signed up are super excited as well. The only thing that's missing is you. So go check out that link. Feel free to DM me on Instagram if you have any questions. We would love to see you there. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Here for More podcast, and I'll see you soon.